Ready, sir?
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm ready, sir.
If you'll take your seats, we'll get started. Are we ready to get started? Welcome. My name is Bob Romero. As duly elected moderator, I will be the moderator or chair for this meeting, according to RSA 197, Section 20. I hereby call this deliberative session of the Town of New Ipswich meeting to order. Earl Somero is serving as the assistant moderator this evening. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for your participation here this evening. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. Emergency exits are located on the back wall of the auditorium. Go to the left as you go out of the room. For the people on the stage, there's an exit in the back right. And smoking is not permitted in the school building nor on school grounds. Restrooms are out the back of the auditorium and to the right. You may use either the faculty or student restrooms. Please silence your phones unless you're expecting a very important call. And now for introductions, I'd like to have everyone on stage introduce themselves.
David Lage, Selectman.
John Beazer, Selectman.
Jay Hawkins, Selectman.
So that was Joanne Meshna, Town Administrator, and Jessica Olson, Town Clerk, Tax Collector. Tax Collector, yes. All right. And supervisors of the checklist are in the back of the room. We have Deb Harity, Barbara Graham, and Marcia Ober. And I want to thank and acknowledge the help and support of the police and fire departments, the town boards, other election officials, school officials, the custodial staff here at the high school for their efforts. Also, I want to thank Mr. David Franz for the audiovisual this evening. Now to the business at hand. Anyone living in New Ipswich who is a registered voter wishing to vote in today's session must check in with the supervisors of the checklist in the rear of the auditorium. Once checked in, each voter will wear a colored dot in order to vote today. There are no registrations allowed today. However, you may register for the March 13th election with the town clerk prior to voting day or on the day of the election at the polls. At the town meeting on or about 1997, the town of New Ipswich adopted SB2, which is a standardized official ballot referendum system. Today we will be discussing and voting on the town warrant as directed by the SB2 system. The purpose of the warrant is to warn or place the subject matter before the voters according to Senate Bill 2. And by allowing us to make amendments to the warrant, and it enables a similar but not exact range of possible amendments that voters enjoyed under the prior town meeting system. Today we will not be adopting any new articles. The town warrant signed by the select board may be placed on the official ballot for the final vote on March 13th with no further action required by this meeting. However, this being the first session of the town meeting, we will be explaining, discussing, debating, and possibly amending warrant articles at the pleasure of the meeting. Voting on the articles by official ballot in the second session will take place on Tuesday, March 13th, 2018, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. here at the Scenic Regional High School. Please enter the back of the building into the gymnasium. This evening, we will be using general parliamentary rules to run this meeting as has been done in prior years. Copies of these rules are posted on the walls of the auditorium, and I also have a setup here to show on the screen. So, parliamentary decorum. The article will be read by myself, and then, if appropriate, I will recognize a board member to begin the discussion of the article. After persons on the stage have spoken, the floor will be open for discussion and questions. All speakers must be courteous and must speak to the issues, not to the individual raising them. The moderator will not allow personal attacks or inappropriate language. If any person behaves in a disorderly manner and after notice from the moderator persists in such behavior, the moderator will request such person to be removed from the meeting per RSA 40-8. Non-residents may only speak with permission of the meeting, except the moderator will allow non-resident town officials and consultants or experts to speak who are here at the meeting to provide information about an article or questions related to the town. The moderator may impose time limits as necessary to keep the meeting moving. Once a person has spoken on an issue, they should wait until all others have had a chance to speak, unless it is in response to a question. Parliamentary motions. Move the question. This is to end debate. This motion may be called to end debate after a reasonable time of discussion. A 2/3 majority vote is required to pass, which would end debate. We would then proceed to vote on the motion on the floor or proceed to the next article. A no vote means the discussion may continue at the pleasure of the meeting. Request to vote by secret ballot. To vote by secret ballot, 5 voters must sign a request in writing prior to a voice vote being called. Forms are on the stage, and this request can only be made for the article being considered. Motion to restrict reconsideration of an article. A motion to restrict reconsideration of an article is allowed on any and all prior articles. I wish to secure the result. Once a motion to restrict reconsideration is adopted, the article or articles can no longer be reconsidered by today's meeting. Motion to amend an article. At today's meeting, certain articles are open to amendment. If the amendments are properly offered, they will be discussed and voted upon here today. If an amendment is adopted by this meeting, the article will appear as amended on the official ballot at the voting session on March 13th, without another vote on the original article. If the amendment fails, the article will appear on the official ballot in its original form with no further action needed. Only one amendment may be presented at a time. There are amendment forms also on the stage. Point of order. This may be called at any time if there is a question about parliamentary procedures or general procedures. A request to move the question is not a point of order. Are there any questions? At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to adopt the rules of the meeting as just outlined. Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. To vote in the affirmative, and I so declare. Again, as a reminder, all voters must check in with the supervisor of the checklist to be counted in any votes that we take here tonight. I encourage all interested voters to speak. Microphones are set up in the front of the auditorium. Please line up the microphones, and when acknowledged by the moderator, please state your name the first time you are speaking on each article, as it is necessary so the town clerk can properly record the proceedings. Please direct your discussion through the moderator and not to other voters. Non-residents are welcome to observe, but will not be allowed to vote. Are there any non-residents in the hall at this time? Thank you. So let us begin. Article 1. This article is not amendable. It reads as follows. To choose the following necessary town officials for the year ensuing. Board of Selectmen, 1 one-year term. Board of Selectmen, 1 3-year term. Budget Committee, 2 3-year terms. Budget Committee, 1 2-year term. Budget Committee, 1 1-year term. Board of Assessors, 1 3-year term. Trustee of the Trust Funds, 1 3-year term. Planning Board, 2 for 3-year terms. Supervisor of the Checklist, 1 for a 6-year term. 2 Cemetery Trustees for 3-year terms. 1 Town Clerk Tax Collector, 3-year term. 1 Moderator, 2-year term. Article 2. Are you in favor of the adoption of the amendment to the existing New Ipswich zoning ordinance as proposed by the Planning Board to correct a reference to an out-of-date document referenced in Article 13, Section J? This article is not amendable. Are there any questions on that article? All right. Article 3, shall the town raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by the vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $2,350,650. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $2,309,472, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40, Section 13, subsections 10 and 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 3-1. All right.
I'd like to propose amending Article 3 to read, shall the town raise and appropriate an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on a budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session, for the purpose set forth therein totaling $2,360,650. It's a $10,000. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $2,309,472, which is the same as last year. With certain adjustments required by previous action of the town by law or by the governing body, and hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40, 13, 10, 16 to take up the issue of the revised operating budget only. The reason I'm proposing this motion to amend is the Board of Selectmen would like to add $10,000 to the bottom line for.
Yes, sir.
You need a second. If he made a motion, you should get a second to discuss.
So is there a second?
It's been seconded on the amendment.
The reason being, we want to add monies to the budget for dry hydrant replacement or repair. That's the reason why I'm asking.
All right, is there any, does anyone else want to speak on the, is the fire chief here?
Meredith Lund, Town of New Ipswich, obviously. What we did was we did a survey of all of the dry hydrants in town, determined which ones were in good working order, which ones we would like to continue to maintain, and then we're going to be starting a maintenance program and a testing program that will go on every year from here on out. And my understanding is that money will be going into the highway department, correct, for the maintenance of that, if I remember the issue as it came up with the select.
Correct.
And then the highway department will maintain and make sure that those hydrants have access for the fire department.
Thank you, Meredith. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Are we ready to vote on the amendment? Yes. Are you signaling attention from the chair, or are you waving to a friend? Okay, I'll read the amendment again. We use larger font on these amendments. Shall the town raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant as amended by a vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $2,360,650. Should this article be defeated, the default budget would be $2,309,472, which is the same as last year, with certain amendments required by previous actions of the town or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013, subsections 10 and 16, to take up the issue of the revised operating budget only. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. That's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare. Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to propose an amendment. Within our town budget, without changing the bottom line budget, we're proposing to amend Article 3 to correct a miscalculation. When figuring the land use clerk salaries, a 2.5% merit increase was not included. We're looking to amend the line item 01-4130.1-1 of the Board of Selectmen's budget from $69,594 to $68,594, and then to amend line item 01-4130.1-111 of the Board of Selectmen budget from $73,226 to $74,226. And that's taking money out of the town administrator's line item and allocating it to the land use clerk and office there.
So it's been offered by David Lage and seconded by Jay Hopkins. Is there discussion on this article or any other clarification you'd like to add?
If there's any questions, we'll answer them.
So this is not an increase to the budget, it's only moving money around within the budget.
Correct, because we have the warrant article that was voted on by the voters without making any adjustments to a salary line item, and that's why when we saw the error in the calculation, we had to correct it at this meeting.
Is there any more discussion on this article? The amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. That's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare. Is there any additional discussion on Article 3? All right, we'll move to Article 4. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $160,000 for maintenance, construction, and reconstruction of New Ipswich roads, and to meet said appropriation with anticipated funds from a New Hampshire Department of Transportation block grant, amount not to be raised through taxation. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 3-0. Is there any discussion on this article? Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $350,000 to reconstruct and pave New Ipswich roads. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation for a period of 2 years, terminating on December 31st, 2020, or when the project is completed, whichever comes sooner, in accordance with RSA 32-7, Section 6. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 3-0. Is there any discussion on this article? Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $250,000 to reconstruct and pave New Ipswich roads. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation for a period of 2 years, terminating on December 31st, 2020, or when the project is completed, whichever comes sooner, in accordance with RSA 32.7, Section 6. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, not recommended by the Budget Committee 0-3. Is there any discussion on this article? Approach the microphone, please.
Jason Wayne. Did the Board of Selectmen consider that these Articles 4, 5, and 6, can you clarify?
You're speaking to get a little closer.
For Articles 4, 5, and 6, can you clarify whether these are supposed to be voted on separately, if they are yes, no for each individual, or if we're voting on each amount, just one of the three amounts for 4, 5, and 6?
It's three separate articles, and so you vote yes or no on each one.
Do you have a map that shows which roads are associated with which article? Who would address that? Just looking for clarification.
I'd like to explain that to you because every year it is a confusing three warrant article. That first warrant article, that's to accept the money that the state's going to give us. That's the highway block grant. Okay, that's a separate from Articles 5 and 6. So think of Article 4 as accepting money from the state. With that money, we use that more to maintain our roads, whether it's processing gravel, buying culverts, etc. That's what that money is used for. Warrant Articles 5 and 6 excuse me, are set up to rebuild the roads in New Ipswich. And I would advocate to everyone to vote for both of those. They have been doing that now for almost 8 years, and I believe everyone in town has recognized the improvements in the roads. And the plan has always been that we do the collector roads first, which are the main roads that the side streets feed onto. And we've almost got them all done. We've got a few more to go. And then we can start doing the side roads. This past year, 2017, we were very fortunate because the legislature voted to provide all municipalities with additional monies of a highway block grant. So we got the original amount they were going to give to us, and then they gave us another $109,000, I think it was, which allowed us to rebuild Temple Road from Turnpike Road to where it hits Greenville Road. And that's what that money goes for.
Just to clarify, the reason that they have two separate articles is several years ago we had a highway committee that started looking at deciding how we wanted to repair the roads and deciding what plan of action we would take. And they felt that putting a $600,000 article might scare people into voting it down completely, and then we would have no money for the roads. So at that point, they decided to go with a 350 and a 250. So hopefully we would at least be able to do something every year. And it's been successful over the past several years. So those two articles have remained in there, separated into those two pieces, so we can at least have something every year, even if people vote down part of it.
Okay, sorry, last question. The Board of Selectmen did not recommend Article 6. So what's the clarification for Article 6?
So that was the Budget Committee did not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. So what's the difference between Article 5 and Article 6? That's our last question.
It's just a matter of, as Selectman Beasley explained, at one point in time, the thought was, well, rather than making one warrant article for $600,000, let's break it up into two separate ones. And for 8 years, they've been voting for both of them. So we would urge you to still, let's stay the path, get our roads redone.
So I didn't know that, Jay, I don't know, you were a select person on the Budget Committee. I don't know if you could relate any of you.
I did not sit in on that meeting when they would have discussed that warrant article. I would hope one of the three that are on the committee would be here to answer these questions, but I don't see any of them in the room. So I don't know why they would not recommend it. I do as a select.
Thank you. You're welcome.
further questions on Article 6? Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $84,370 for contracted licensed ambulance service, emergency services, and support. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 3-0. Is there any discussion on this article? Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $194,000 to be contributed to the previously established capital reserve and expendable trust funds as follows. Highway Equipment Expendable Trust, $75,000. Fire Truck Capital Reserve, $50,000. Pool Expendable Trust, $8,000. Police Cruiser Expendable Trust, $20,000. Building Maintenance Expendable Trust, $25,000. Fire Department Protection Equipment Capital Reserve, $15,000. Maintenance of Parks and Recreation Facilities Capital Reserve, $1,000. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 2-1. Is there any discussion on this article? Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of repairing the tennis courts and creating 2 pickleball courts, and to authorize the withdrawal of $10,000 from the Parks and Recreation Capital Reserve Fund established for this purpose. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Not recommended by the Budget Committee, 0-3. Is there any discussion on this article?
I'd like to comment on it, Mr. Moderator.
Yeah.
Just that, you know, our thought process on this is that we have those tennis courts in town, which right now are not usable. There are a lot of cracks and voids in them, and our Park and Rec Director had made the recommendation the proper way of doing is just to rebuild them, but that would be a very costly proposal, and I think what the Park and Rec Director put forward was an economical way of at least making them usable, and then going the extra step of being able to use it for both tennis and pickleball, which I'm hearing is a popular activity for adults. So we recommend that you vote in favor of that.
Any further discussion? Could you get a little closer?
My name is Michael Conlon.
Thank you.
On this article, so it's a total of $20,000.
No, it's
So
just
what-
10,000.
So we're only moving 10,000 from the expendable trust?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
any further discussion on this article? Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate.
Mr. Moderator, could I interrupt? I saw a young lady put her hand up and leave the notice.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Nicole Talbot. I just wanted to point out that for Article 9, this isn't going to raise anyone's taxes. It's funds that's already existing in the Capital Reserve Fund to make repairs at the parks for the town. So I just wanted to point that out. We're not raising anyone's taxes to make the repairs. We already have the money. We just need you to say yes.
Thank you for clarifying. Any further discussion on Article 9? Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $415,000 for the purchase of an NFPA 1901 current edition compliant pumper, and to authorize the withdrawal of $415,000 from the Fire Department Capital Reserve Fund. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation for a period of 1 year, terminating on December 31st, 2019, or when the project is completed, whichever comes sooner, in accordance with RSA 32.7, Section 6. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 2-1. I recognize Meredith Lund.
Thank you. I'm going to make the same statement as was made with Article 9. All of the monies that we're asking to spend for this year are coming out of the capital reserve that has already been allocated to replace a truck. We were unsuccessful last year with our grant application through the federal government. So we currently have a pumper that is part of our initial response that now qualifies as an antique fire truck. So if you can drive an antique car to work every day, we're now asking you to help us protect you and your property with an antique fire truck in our reserve. So I ask for your support and we appreciate your help. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Article 10? Article 11. Well, please come to the microphone, sir.
Dwayne White. I'd just like to know, is there going to be additional funds needed to set up this fire trucks once we have it purchased?
It's that much money they don't account with.
The money that we're looking to spend will have that fully outfitted and whatever is already on our existing engine 3, because we've been slowly replacing hose, nozzles, water appliances, things like that. We've been replacing those. Those will move over to that new engine. So there won't be anything additional required to complete the category for that vehicle.
Any additional discussion on this article? Article 11, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $37,000 to support the New Ipswich Library. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, not recommended by the Budget Committee 0-3. Is there any discussion on this article? Article 12, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $23,500 for the fourth year of the 5-year cyclical revaluation 2015 through 2019, and for utility assessment, and to authorize the withdrawal from the revaluation capital reserve fund established for that purpose. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 3-0. Is there any discussion on this item? Article 13, to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $9,340 for the purpose of funding the following regional health services that assist New Ipswich residents. Home health care, hospice, and community services, $1,500. Monadnock Family Services, $500. Meals on Wheels, $1,840. The River Center, $500. Granite State Children's Alliance, $500. American Red Cross, $1,000. Community Volunteer Transportation Company, $500. Court-appointed Special Advocates for Children, or CASA, $250. Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention, Incorporated, $250. St. Vincent de Paul, $2,500. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 3-0. Is there any discussion on this article? Article 14, to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $3,917 to participate in the City of Keens Household Hazardous Waste Program. This program includes 24 waste collection dates and will allow residents to dispose of household waste free of charge. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation for a period of 1 year, terminating on December 31st, 2019, or when the project is completed, whichever comes first, in accordance with RSA 32.7, Section 6. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 3-0. Is there any discussion on this article?
Just a question, Mrs.
Would you approach the microphone, please?
Article 40, it appears that it's only effective for 2019, according to the, it expires December 31st, 2019. Is that correct?
The funds would expire then, but the actual cost covers us for 2018.
It has to do with awarding for these appropriations. It looks like 1 year, but it's really 2 years. Any additional questions on this article? Article 15. To see if the town will vote to reduce the annual funding from cable franchise fees to the Video Committee Revolving Fund from $3,500 to $1,750. The difference to be deposited into the town's general fund unreserved fund balance. This requires a 2/3 ballot vote in the affirmative to pass. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, not recommended by the Budget Committee 0-3. Any discussion or clarification anyone's there? I'm sorry,
Somebody explain what it means.
approach the microphone? No.
Hi, George Simon. I guess it sounds as though they want to stop spending $3,500 and only spend $1,750 for these services, is that correct? Is that a reduction of cost?
Yes, it's a reduction in the costs. When we look at how much money is in that account currently and how much it costs us to run the equipment, there's excess funds going into this reserve account, and we felt that that should go into the general fund.
And there's probably nobody here from the Budget Committee to explain why they wouldn't be in favor of that?
Basically, we're just, what we've done is we get those franchise fees, that money from the cable company, and it's all currently been going into one trust fund. And we have a rather large balance. We spoke to Ron, who's our sole operator and member of our video department. So we asked him what we were looking at long term, and we had some money there. So the selectmen worked with him, and so instead of continuing to put all that in there, we figured we would turn some money back over into the general fund and be able to use it in other areas of the town's budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just add one thing to that. This past year, the town renegotiated the franchise fees with Comcast, and each time that's done, they typically will pony up some money to help us with replacement of equipment, upgrading equipment, and that did occur.
Any further discussion on this article? Article 16. To see if the town shall raise and appropriate the sum of $685,000 for the replacement of bridge number 108/70 on Taylor Road. $548,000 of such sum to be reimbursed from the State of New Hampshire Department of Transportation, and $137,000 of such sum to be raised by taxation. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation for as long as the money remains available under the rules of practice of the State of New Hampshire Department of Transportation, or when the project is completed, whichever comes sooner, in accordance with RSA 32.7, Section 4. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 3-0. Clarification, Joanne, should that be Section 6 or Section 4? Section 4. Thank you. Is there any discussion on this article? Yes, David.
Just so that everybody is aware, that Taylor Road has been closed. This bridge repair, though, wouldn't happen until the earliest right now is 2025. But in order to ever be able to do it, you're going to get on the list. So if it gets voted, at least we'll be on the list, and we'll have to be patient to have it rebuilt.
Any further discussion on Article 16? Article 17, to see if the town will vote to modify the income limits for elderly exemptions and disability exemptions from property tax in the town of New Ipswich, based on assessed value for qualified taxpayers to be as follows. The person must be at least 65 years of age, have been a New Hampshire resident for at least 5 years, own the real estate individually or jointly, or if the real estate is owned by such person's spouse, they must have been married for at least 5 years. In addition, the taxpayer must have a net income of not more than $27,000, or if married, a combined net income of less than $37,000, and own net assets not in excess of $61,000, excluding the value of the person's residence. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 3-0. Is there any discussion on this article? Article 18, to see if the town will vote to rescind Article 23 of the 2014 town warrant establishing a budget committee. The Board of Selectmen would create the final budget to be submitted for voters' approval, signed by petition, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0. With additional, like to speak?
Mark Fortier. I went to the town website and looked for the meeting minutes of the Budget Committee for 2017 and 2018. There were, according to the meetings, there were 2 meetings in 2017. One meeting appointed a Ellen Doyle as a committee member. The second meeting on September 18th, the Dan Heaton budget meeting. No other business apparently took place. There were 2 meetings in 2018 according to the meeting schedule, the meeting minutes. One was the public hearing on October 16th, which did have extensive minutes and did discuss the budget that they had come up with at length. And an additional meeting on October 20th, on January 20th, where the chairman stepped down. When was the budget discussed? There were no meeting minutes of any budget discussions whatsoever other than the public hearing on January 16th. That and the fact that the Budget Committee isn't even here tonight is a pretty good argument for disbanding the budget.
Further discussion on this article?
My name is Joe Deaton. My question is the budget that's being presented to us tonight, the selectmen's budget?
Can you step a little closer to the microphone, please?
Is the budget being presented tonight the selectmen's budget, or is it the budget committee's budget, for clarification?
Our understanding is that the public hearing that was held, the Budget Committee voted to accept the selectmen's budget as the budget to go forward with. They had a different value at that public hearing, listened to the public, and voted to go with the selectmen's budget. So that is what has been presented.
So that's all I want clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there additional discussion on this article? Seeing none, is there any other business to be brought forward to tonight's meeting?
I'd like to know if we need to go back and revisit Article 8 for awarding discrepancy in the dollar amount. And I can't take credit for this, I really can't. It says to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $194 in the words, and it says 194,000 in the parentheses. Here's I want my money, that's why I'm and $194 isn't enough for the fire department, So do I need to amend that article, or does somebody need to amend it?
That's a typographical issue, and we will take care of that.
Very much appreciated.
Mr. Moderator, I would suggest that somebody make a motion so that there's no question about it.
Would you like to do that, Earl?
I'll make a motion that we amend Article E.
Well, that would be something.
I gotta fill that out. Hey, Mike, hey.
While she's doing that, is there any additional discussion on this amendment? I'll read the amendment again. I'll read the article as it's going to be amended. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $194,000 to be contributed to the previously established capital reserve and expendable trust funds as follows. Is there any discussion we'd like to have on this housekeeping?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Well, we have an amendment on the floor we have to vote on first, but I'll get to you in just a second. Yes.
D-Day, I would like to...
It's a little closer to the...
Even closer.
Yeah.
D-Day, I would like to request that next year we put line items on this so that the motions don't need to be read in their entirety and or amended in their entirety. They can be simply, the amendments can be written by line to change X, Y, Z in line, whatever, so that we can make this process a little simple.
So you're looking to do something for expediency?
Well, and simplicity. If people have to rewrite the whole motion every time, or the whole item every time, it can be quite lengthy.
Thank you. Yes.
So are all these things being voted on in March? There's no actual voting taking place tonight, other than what happened earlier tonight?
That is correct. From 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or by absentee ballot if you won't be in town on March 13th.
Okay, thank you.
And you request absentee ballots from the town clerk. You don't need to write out the whole thing. You just need to write out the
I'm just going to write
word
C.
version of it.
How many zeros did you add?
I didn't up the fire department.
Since it's been a while, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $194,000 to be contributed to the previously established capital reserve and expendable trust funds as follows. Highway Equipment Expendable Trust, $75,000. Fire Truck Capital Reserve, $50,000. Pool Expendable Trust, $8,000. Police Cruiser Expendable Trust, $20,000. Building Maintenance Expendable Trust, $25,000. Fire Department Protection Equipment Capital Reserve, $15,000. Maintenance of Parks and Recreation Facilities Capital Reserve, $1,000. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee 2-1. Is there any more discussion on this article? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare. I'm going to recognize David Lage.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming out this evening. We thought that the budget that's been presented, which there was a handout for, this deliberative session is to be sure that everyone understands what is in the budget, how it was arrived at, and in hopes that that would have been covered tonight by the Budget Committee. And before we do adjourn, I just want to make sure that everybody that has attended, if you have any questions in that handout that shows the line items of the budget, if there's any questions, we would answer them. It's very exhaustive, but you'll see in summary for each department what their budget is. And I think when you look at this year's budget being proposed is lower than what it was last year. And one of the other interesting facts that at least was an eye-opener for myself in reviewing town tax rates for all of the adjacent towns around us. We have probably 10 that we compare them to, and Ipswich has the lowest town tax rate. So I think we're getting a good bang for our buck.
Mr. Coffey, you had something you want to say? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.